If Chris. Okay, let's begin the meeting. This is the Board of Directors meeting of Lehigh County Authority, January 23rd, 2023. This meeting is being held in person and also remotely using Zoom and phones. Let's have a roll call of the board members present, please.
Sure thing. Roll call of the board. Brian Noggle.
Here.
Scott Bieber. Dick Bonner. Norma Cusick.
Here.
Ted Lyons. Kevin Baker. Linda Rosenfeld. Here. Jeff Morgan. Here. Amir Kamili.
Here.
Thank you. We have 5 board members present, so that is a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. We did receive our packets in advance. At least they were sent out in advance. Did anybody not receive those packets? Everybody should have had an opportunity to review all documents. Have there been any subsequent emails or documents distributed since the original package?
No, not this time.
All right, let's go into the review. I'm sorry.
Here.
You're good, Brian.
I didn't understand that last comment.
It was just a sound issue with Norma.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, let's review the agenda. Are there any changes, corrections, additions, need for executive session?
All right, so for today, I have no changes to the agenda and no additions to the agenda. I will have one comment under staff comments today and ask for an executive session after the close of the regular meeting to discuss real estate acquisition.
I think we will also have a discussion on potential litigation.
The reason for the executive session is real estate acquisition.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, let's move on to the approval of the minutes from December 12th, 2022 board meeting. I think we can look to Norma to provide as a secretary, secretary.
I'd like to, can you hear me?
Yes.
I would like to, okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the regular meeting minutes for December 12th, 2022.
Second.
All right, the motion was made by Norma and seconded by, was that Jeff?
Linda.
Oh, Linda? Okay, sorry, Linda.
That's
All right.
okay.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
I'll
Aye.
make a motion that we accept the regular meeting.
Guess we're getting double feedback on that. Any opposed? Ayes have it. The meeting minutes are accepted as written. At this time, we open up the floor to any public for any comments on items that are not on the agenda. Are there any public comments?
No, thanks, Brian.
Yeah, no, thanks, Brian.
All right, thank you, Jenny and Brian. Appreciate that. Now we move on to action items and discussion items. Under finance, we have a number of different issues. The first one is LCA pension plan. It is an updated mandatory municipal obligations. It is the blue documents in our board package and digital board package pages 9 through 10.
So this one actually does not require discussion unless there are questions. This is an update to the mandatory or the minimum municipal obligation worksheet that we provide every year. We provided the last one in September.
19. Yep.
And there was an update provided by the PMRS that's reflected on the sheet. And if you have any comments.
No, they had actually provided us the normal cost rate, which is provided by them to be used in the calculation. And in September, for some reason, they gave us a rate that was lower than it should have been. They came back and adjusted it for January. So essentially, instead of the 1807143 that we presented to the board in September, it has now become 1812390. So you have an increase of $5,247.
Okay, thank you. The blue document that we have notes those increases. I just want to refer back to the monthly report to the board of directors under the first title. That's the white documents in our board package. It says that there's an MMO worksheet provided with the changes. And I don't think we actually received the MMO worksheets, but the information.
It's on the back of the memo, Brian.
You're right, it is there. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. We don't need any more discussion on that then. Thank you very much. Sorry about that. Didn't look on the back. All right, moving on now to LCA Strategic Plan 2022 Quarterly Progress Reporting Discussion. Yellow documents in our board package, and it's pages 11 through 16 on our digital package.
Thank you, Brian. So what you have in the packet is kind of an end of year report showing where we've been in the 5 key areas within our strategic plan that we're focused on in 22 and 23. And what we've done with this year-end report or fourth quarter progress report is to show the milestones that were achieved or completed in 2022 and lay out what our next steps are, what we're going to be focused on and reporting on in 2023. So, and then at the bottom of each page, there's a list of some other milestones and activities we're keeping watch on. Some of them we may hit this year and some of them we may tackle in future years. So a lot of these are items that we've talked about quite a bit within the board meetings throughout the year. So I don't want to give a belabored long presentation on this. You could be fairly familiar with everything that's here. I wanted to highlight just a couple of key items in each one. First of all, on asset management, some key achievements for the whole year, not just in the fourth quarter, but the whole year has been working through that staffing assessment and also developing the next phase of the work scope that the consultants will be working on. We contracted with Hazen and Sawyer last quarter to begin working on the strategic asset management plan, which will be a key milestone activity for 2023. We also recruited and hired AJ Capuzzi as our Director of Engineering and Asset Management. And because of the experience and qualifications he's bringing, he's fully onboarded and diving right into the topics in this area. So look forward to a lot more discussion on asset management in 2023. Under process improvements on the next page, the key thing, there's a lot that could go under process improvement, but the key thing we talked about and worked through in 2022 was the needs assessment for our Munis system or the financial software package that we're using and developing that roadmap for the future. We did authorize Raftellus to continue working with us on a re-implementation project so that we can restructure the system to better meet our future needs. And by using the key features, all of the key features that are provided with Munis, we'll be able to achieve some of these other areas of process improvement that we've been talking about. So really excited. That's going to be a big lift for the organization, along with the asset management planning, broad organizational involvement in both of those projects. On the next page, under water and wastewater capacity, well, it seems like we've been hearing from Phil DePoe just about every month or every meeting on various aspects of this, especially as it relates to wastewater capacity planning. This also captures some water projects as well. There's an awful lot that has been achieved in 2022. and specifically moving forward with the alternative screening for the Kleins Island sewer system. I did want to highlight under 2022 milestones completed. 2 of them are marked here for the Central Lehigh and North Whitehall Division water supply study and the pretreatment plant master plans. Both of those are complete, we'll say complete enough to consider them 22 achievements, but we'll be presenting those in the first quarter to the board because the board hasn't seen the results of those 2 projects. So next year we'll be really focused on bringing the broad scope of the alternatives analysis that we're working on now for the regional system down and narrowing that down. Our goal is to have 3 final alternatives narrowed down by the end of the year, and that's going to require an awful lot of financial analysis, engineering analysis, as well as looking at the agreements and everything else that's involved with that. So that'll be brought to the board, I'm sure, many, many times. On the next one, related to employee engagement and safety, you'll see on the sheet there on page 4, there are some horizontal lines drawn across the page. That's just to indicate the activities or milestones that relate more toward employee engagement versus safety, because we do have some different groups working on different aspects of this. So a couple things to highlight there, and really a highlight of the day today is for 2022. We did manage to hire a new staff member, actually 2 new staff members within our HR department, which is really going to help us work through a lot of the things that are listed here on the sheet. I'm happy to introduce you today, Anne-Marie Still, who's sitting in the back of the room. Give us a wave. Anne-Marie started January 9th. So along with her counterpart, Sharia Somerset, who started as an HR coordinator, Anne-Marie is going to be transitioning with Kathy Martin over a period of some time while Kathy works toward her retirement date. And we're really blessed to have the opportunity to do that kind of overlap with Kathy and get the benefit of her experience. So Anne-Marie is coming to us with a broad array of human resources background and relatable experience to our organization, including working with unions that we have here. So it's really great. Anne-Marie, I don't know if you wanted to say just a couple words or a hello about yourself to the board. I didn't really prep you on what kind of presentation to give, but certainly feel free.
Thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. My name is Anne-Marie Still. And just a little bit of a background. I have been in the workforce for 35 years, been doing human resources for 23. The reason being is while I was working during the day, I went to school at night. I have my bachelor's degree from Muhlenberg College in human resource management with my minor in business. And I also went to Villanova University, graduated with my master's degree in HR, human resources development, and also maintained, my skill set and my working knowledge with business. A little bit about the industries that I worked in HR. It's heavy industrial, light industrial, healthcare, and venture capitalists. So some of them were startup organizations and others were tenured organizations that have been around for quite a while. The reason I went into human resources is because I love working with people, but I also love the variety of areas that are within HR as it creates the balance between the employees, but also the business sectors. So if there is anything that you may need, I'd be happy to help in any way possible. And I really look forward to starting my career with LCA. Thank you.
Anne-Marie. So that's the highlight of this particular page, and having both Anne-Marie and Sharia on board with Kathy, that triples our capacity for a period of time, at least while Kathy's still with us, to work more proactively on some of the milestones that are listed here under engagement and safety. So looking forward to that. On the last one related to, on page 5, related to operational excellence, there's just a lot of variety of the things that we worked on in this area in 2022, and a lot of these areas will spill over into 2023. A couple of highlights, and we'll be talking a little bit more about this later as well, relate to small systems, process control, and instrumentation. Also really working on the root cause analysis related to any compliance excursions that we have. Andrew and his team have really been working hard on that, and hope to implement some of those changes and those plans in 2023. A key piece that we'll talk about in a little bit relates to Sand Spring sewer plant and the permit challenges we have there, and certainly are planning to achieve permit compliance in 2023. We also we're going to be talking about in a few minutes our lead service line replacement program that we're hoping to kick off in 2023. So the planning activities leading up to that in last year were really critical. A lot of stuff here related to operational excellence spanning across the whole organization. The last page of the report, which I'm actually going to put up on screen so we can see it together, is the key performance indicator dashboard, and I can get to it. There we go. I need to squeak in under that heading there. So the key performance indicator dashboard, or our metrics dashboard, is something that we put together last year to share with you some highlights and measures that we focus on throughout the year, and that tie directly to our strategic initiatives. So we have financial, we have asset management, we have compliance, safety, and employee metrics here. And then we have a couple of metrics here that are still showing as placeholders where we're developing the metrics. We do have in our 2023 goals under asset management a milestone or activity around developing a new metric for board reporting on capital program, on time, on budget. AJ's got that one, and we'll be working with Chuck and others on that one. And then customer care as well, customer satisfaction, and also collections, something in that vein will show up here. So we spend a fair amount of time each month talking about financial. So sorry, Ed, I'm not going to go there today. We can do that next month when you provide your next financial report. Asset management, I wanted to just highlight that PM stands for preventive maintenance and CM stands for corrective maintenance. This is an industry standard benchmark to measure how much preventive maintenance we're putting into our systems versus corrective maintenance. Clearly, the more preventive maintenance we do over the long term, the less corrective maintenance we'll need to do. However, you'll see in the goals or the strategic activities that we're still working on plan design or program design. So we have some areas of the operation where not all of our maintenance activities are actually being captured by the system. So that's why we have these two dials showing the design process or the progress on our design. And then the last one I wanted to focus on, because it is kind of, I'll just say it's the bummer of 2022, our environmental compliance area, where we were seeing some downward trends in a variety of areas, you know, in permit exceedances, SSOs, bypasses, boil advisories that are shown here. 2022, we had a pretty significant uptick in this permit exceedances. We talked about this pretty much every time I've shared this report with you, but this quarter is when the whole year shows in, and it really shows the full kind of the full effect of what's been going on. And the 106 permit violations shown in this graph are driven primarily by the Sand Springs system that has been really troubling, and that shows up in our operations report. This is the DEP notice.
Lisa, how many of the 106 is related to Sand Spring? Roughly
87.
Yeah, roughly 87. Okay.
Yeah. we pull out Sand Springs and we'd be actually on par for a very good year.
Thank you.
Andrew, anything more you want to say about that one? I know it's been on your mind.
No, I think that's pretty good summary. One thing that I would point out is bypasses have relatively been the same with previous years. However, something that's not captured here is the total gallons bypassed. So a lot of the work that Chuck and crew have been doing up in Heidelberg may not have actually decreased the total number of bypasses, but the total volume has gone down pretty drastic over the past 2 years.
So it's something that we could report on. Yeah, over time. Great.
Andrew, your LTI and recordable is the same or the different numbers?
Say that again.
Your LTI, last time incident versus.
Not exactly sure where that's pulled from, to be totally honest with you. We ended at 7 for the year, so that this report may have been pulled before that was updated. So the last one was in December.
You're asking year over year.
I'm just looking what number of LTI last time incident versus recordable. I just want to see, are we measured as two different?
No, they're sort of thrown into the same group.
Same.
Yeah, it's something that we need to sort of figure out how we're gonna report in the future.
So if we look at the employee engagement and safety page under the 2023 milestones and activities, this is certainly a key one for us. And oops, Ed and his group are Ed is heading up our environmental health and safety steering committee, and we'll be focused on that. Our metrics to leave a little bit.
Yes, we're looking for more volume of metrics and improvement in the accuracy. But I think we're gonna see as we go along, there's gonna be we're gonna measure much more and show much more.
And since we're out of screen sharing, I see that Kevin Baker has joined us. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi, yes, apologies. I had some computer problems getting connected, unfortunately.
So that's all I have for the report on the strategic initiatives. As I said, I think we do a reasonably good job talking about all of these areas throughout the year, and it's just a good chance once a quarter to kind of focus on the progress on those strategic initiatives. Brian, or any board member discussion or questions?
Nope, not from me. Just a question on the phone number 4231. Who is that?
That I don't know.
I think I've seen that before, but okay. All right. Any other questions? Any more discussion on that? All right. Thank you very much for the report.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next item. Sorry. Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda, Resolution 1/2023-1, reauthorizing the authority's application for Penvest funding, seeking approval, as the pink documents in the board package and its digital board package pages 17 to 27.
So for this one, I'm primarily going to turn over to Mike Gall to explain why we have this resolution, but just wanted to orient the board to what this is about. Back in 2020, 2021, we authorized the application for loan monies through Penvest for a project at the water plant in Allentown for the VFD pump replacement for the high service pump station. And that project was, the closing on the loan was delayed for a variety of reasons related to how Penvest views the concession lease agreement, as well as some project delays related to receipt of equipment. And so now we're getting close to the point of being able to close on that loan. And the resolution is here to kind of reaffirm our commitments that we made earlier. And Mike, do you want to explain a little bit about why we have this, what's included here?
Well, Liesl has accurately described this, that we're just reauthorizing financing that was approved back in actually April of 2021, but was delayed due to some PennVest requirements. The closing was delayed, but we're on the cusp of closing. I think it's scheduled for February 23rd. And so we're just, because of the passage of time, we're just reauthorizing it again. And then in particular, there were some references in the original resolution to the name of the bond that would be used and then the supplemental indenture. And because of the passage of time, these are going to be, the references are going to be updated to referencing 2023. So myself and the bond council thought it was a good idea to do this updated resolution. So if anyone looked at it historically to look back at it, they would be able to tie together all the references. So so that's that. Pretty simple, actually.
What's the status of the project?
The project is substantially complete, Jeff, and everything's operating. All the VFDs are wired. The station is fully operable. There's some minor punch list items that are being cleaned up right now, but the project is essentially complete.
That was no issue doing the work before the loan, or because it was authorized before, it was just the closing was delayed. So that all worked out.
It was, the closing was delayed because of PennVest concerns about the lease agreement and the trust the conflict with the trust indenture. So they actually required that we complete the project first and reimburse ourselves with the loan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it would have been a problem, but they made
Yeah,
it.
it's unusual that they're paying for work that's already done.
Yeah.
So that's why I was confused when I read this. So I figured I'd ask. Now I'm not confused.
Good. So one of the resolutions that's attached to the resolution we're asking for consideration today, Exhibit B is the reimbursement resolution, which is essentially exactly what we just said, the intention to close on the loan and reimburse ourselves using the loan proceeds.
I'll make a resolution. Make a motion, pass that resolution.
Thank you.
Second.
Let's identify that was Jeff making the motion and it was seconded by whom?
Linda.
Okay, thank you. All right, any questions on this resolution? All right, then we're gonna have a voice vote for resolution number 2023-1. It's an updated borrow resolution.
Okay, voice vote on resolution 1-2023-1, Brian Noggle,
Yes.
Norma Cusick. I think we lost Norma. Kevin Baker,
Yes.
Linda Rosenfeld,
Yes.
Jeff Morgan,
Yes.
Amir Famili.
Yes.
Thank you. That's 5 yes votes.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to resolution number 2023-2, authorizing the authority's application for PennVest funding. It's seeking approval to the green documents in our board package, digital package pages 28 through 29.
Sorry, can I just interrupt for a second? Because Norma is not here, we really should appoint a temporary recording secretary.
Okay. Brian, did you hear that?
I did hear that. Can we use staff as a temporary, or does it must be somebody from the board?
I think you can use a staff member for this.
All right, then yep, Liesl, you're still there? Yes.
I am, yes.
We'll appoint Liesl as that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. By consensus, Liesl will act as the recording secretary. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Do we need more than 4 votes?
We have 5. Kevin's here now.
Okay.
Thanks, AJ. So the resolution 1-2023-2 is another funding authorization through PennVest. This time it's related to lead service line replacement program. Now, this one is a little simpler than the one we just did because it simply authorizes us to apply for the funds. And if we go forward with it, then we'll have other resolutions like the reimbursement resolution and other things related to that. At this stage, we're just asking for approval to apply for the funds. By way of background, the lead and copper rule was revised by EPA in 2021. And part of the reauthorization or the revision to the lead and copper rule is a future requirement to replace lead service lines where they exist on either the private side or the public side of the system. And in Allentown, there are quite a number of lead service lines, both public and private side. So we've been undergoing a process of identifying where they exist, developing an inventory, which is required under the new lead and copper rule, and developing our plans around how we would do lead service line displacements. In the meantime, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act was passed, providing funding for lead service line replacements and specifically grant funding. That grant funding is administered through Penvest and includes funding not only for the public portion of the lead service lines, but also the private side. The private side replacements have been a real concern for LCA because of the number of them that exist in Allentown. It's somewhere in the range of 9,000 to 12,000 service lines we're talking about, and the ability of private homeowners to be able to afford replacement of their service line that goes from the curb into the house. So last year we began talking about how to develop a program and how to take advantage of the grant funding that is currently available now, even though the compliance deadline for EPA is later. And so we've contracted with Gannett Plumbing to help us put a project together, put an application together, and we're planning to do, we're hoping with your authorization to do an application and hoping to put it together the right way so that we can be granted grant monies to do it. The current plan is to do about 150 service lines, both public and private. We think that's a good size number. It'll cost maybe $2.5 million. We're still working on those details, but it'll give us a really good set of data and help us develop our actual protocols and processes for the future plan. And if we can secure grant money for it, even better. So this resolution is simply to authorize us to pursue that through an application to Penvest, and more details we can present to you kind of as things move forward. Andrew has been our lead internal person on developing the compliance approach for the lead and copper rule. So Andrew, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else about this plan.
No, I think you basically covered everything that I would say relating to this project. We have been working on it for, feels like forever, good 2 years now. There's still a lot of service lines that we're not quite sure what the composition is. So by no means are we even close to being done. We still do have a lot of work to do on that end of things.
And Andrew asked me to speak on this because of the funding aspect of it, and working through the Penvest process has been it's been a learning process for all of us, we'll just say. And we'll have to see if we're able to secure all grant funding. That would be great. If they come back and do partial grant funding, partial loan funding, then we'll be having more conversation about the structure of how that works. Because it is still, it's in the city, and the issues with the lease agreement still will impact how a loan would work.
Just a general question. So when the piping that comes off the main, right? Do you know what that is? And it comes to a valve behind the curb line, which is either owned by the city or half owned by the city and the homeowner, right? And so we're talking from that valve into the house. That's where the replacement work will happen.
Yep.
And what about from the valve out to the main? Does that, you guys know what that material is? Is that generally not lead? And if you don't know, that's fine. I'm just curious.
It's a difficult one to answer, but we have a pretty good idea of the composition of the actual service line from the main to the house. We're, I'm gonna say about 60% of the lines in the city. Back in 2012, there was a meter replacement program throughout the city. So we have a lot of good data on the customer side from that curb stop into the house.
Okay,
But there is a lot missing from the curb stop to the actual main.
right, okay.
So but the main or the replacements would be both sides, the public side and the private side. And so it's good that Mike is here with us, because if we're able to move this project forward, doing the private side replacements will likely require quite a bit of thought, we'll say, into how we do that, because we don't own it, and what agreements we'll need to have with each individual homeowner about replacing their private infrastructure. Replacing the public side is easier. We own it, we can do it. But it's a complex project, and starting small with a small size, I think is the right approach.
That's really what makes this role pretty unique, is the replacement rates are determined on replacing the entire lead service line. So if you don't actually own that section, how do you exactly go about replacing that?
And we couldn't afford to do it without grant money.
Exactly.
It would have to fall on the homeowner to do somehow.
Okay, I think that's an adequate description of the project, the resolution. Any more comments? All right, then looking for a motion for resolution number 1/2023-2 for Lehigh County Authority approving the submission of a financial assistance application for Penvest for the replacement of public and private service line and lines of other materials. Motions, second.
I'll make the motion. This is Norma.
All right, thank you.
Jeff seconds.
Thank you for identifying yourself. I appreciate that. Just a little bit muffled. I hear everything else, but okay, thank you very much. Motion made and seconded. Any questions? All right, we need a tally of votes on this. Voice vote, please.
Sure thing. So a voice vote on resolution 1/2023-2. Brian Noggle,
Yes.
Norma Cusick,
Yes.
Kevin Baker,
Yes.
Linda Rosenfeld,
Yes.
Jeff Morgan,
Yes.
and Mayor Feely.
Yes.
Thank you. That's 6 yes votes.
All right, thank you. Let's move on now to under the topic of water. Allentown Division emergency declaration, water main break at Foster Road. Seeking approval. It's the purple documents in the board package, and it's digital board package pages 30 to 31.
All right. We'll have Chris Mullen actually handle this one and the next one.
Thank you, everybody. On December 8th of last year, Lehigh County Authority crews in the Allentown Division were called out to the corner of Mosser and Fox Meadow Drive, where a sizable sinkhole was reported. Once our guys got there and secured the scene, they worked with the city to make sure that we could block off appropriate roads within a 1.5-block radius to make sure that nobody could drive through. They evaluated and found that there was a 12-inch water main break at the bell. So quickly enough, our guys were able to repair that section and get water restored to the customers. But the emergency part of this was it was noticed that this was the 5th bell break in a 1.5-block section in 12 months. So knowing that this road was part of the cycle 7 water main replacement for 2023, the operational team worked closely with Chuck, AJ, and the capital works team, as well as with Jenny and compliance, to see if we could use part of the cycle 7 funding and reimbursement as part of this to get this done in an emergency fashion. So we ended up doing a whole section of Mosser Street rather than just emergency repair. So we kind of dipped into the cycle 7 fund a little bit. Total cost was about $40,000 from Ferguson Waterworks for supplies and pipes, and it was about $87,000 from Gerald Bradley, who you guys have heard mentioned multiple times as one of our our kind of go-to vendors for this type of situation for a total of about $127,000. Work was completed without issue successfully for all of Moss Road. And just one thing of note, at that initial break, when the guys were there, we used a little bit more than 10.5 yards of flowable fill, which is a full-size cement truck dumped into the ground and to fill up the void that we had found underneath it. The biggest concern of all of this was that with doing this emergency repair, we were able to kind of scrape back the road and see if there was any other voids or anything that we missed in the initial go around. So I'm requesting emergency declaration retroactively to cover the expense of $127,232.43 to cover the work that was done on Mosser in the beginning of December.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
When do you expect the road to be back in shape?
That always gets done like early spring. Once the plants all fire up, we get fresh blacktop. They're going to redo the roadway curb to curb. And they're also going to redo all of the cement sidewalks and curb that was broken during the process of the sinkhole. So early spring.
Because it's really bad.
Is that near your house?
Yes.
Awesome.
Right
Is it
there.
on-
Yeah.
That's why I was looking at phones.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, in these situations, when it's cold like that, we use what we call KP, cold patch.
Yeah.
And it is not,
And it's,
it's not nearly as good as a regular hot pave. And we are aware of that. That being said, Linda, if there's concerns, we can certainly have our guys go out there and if we get, sometimes in the cold patch, you'll get dips and low. We can go back and double check and make sure that we can get a smoother road out there.
waited now.
I'll have, you guys know Jason Gruber. I'll have Jason go out and check the road and see if there's some additional patching that we can do to make it a better roadway until we can get out there and do a full restoration.
Main reason I'm saying that also is that whole section of town was hit with gas line replacements.
Yeah.
And the roads are terrible from
Yes.
the gas line replacements because they've never done the street. So it's like, you don't want to drive anywhere
Yeah.
in that area.
Yeah, the issues are compounded with multiple utilities doing work. So I do realize it's a problem. And I'll have Jason go out and check our work at least.
Thanks.
You got it.
The positive side to that is when street does get paved, it covers multiple projects that have happened, which is always the goal.
Right.
So Chris, question on this is Brian, a question on the paving itself. Is that going to be contracted out or is that included within the emergency authorization that you're requesting?
That'll be contracted out. We generally do bulk contracting for that stuff in the spring to patch up everything that we've worked on over the winter months. And we have a budget item where we can handle that pretty well.
Okay, thank you. So that's above and beyond what you're asking for right now. Thank you.
Correct. Yeah, we're strictly acting for the emergency repair.
I will say that the water line was fixed extremely quickly. I mean, the guys did a great job.
Couple hours.
I wasn't that affected. I just lost some pressure.
Sure.
I'm not affected greatly. But the people that were, I don't even think it was out 6 hours.
No, 4.5 hours. Yeah, we have some amazing guys out there in the city.
Okay, thank you, Chris, and your crew. Looking for a motion and a second for the retroactive emergency declaration approval for this work on Mosser Street of $127,232.43.
I'll make that motion. This is Norma.
I'll second, it's Linda.
All right, motion made by Norma and seconded by Linda. Any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? All right, ayes have it. Thank you very much. And thank the crew. Moving on to a second emergency declaration. Suburban Division, realignment of exposed water main in Heidelberg Heights, seeking approval. That's the salmon documents in our board package, digital board package page 32.
Thank you. And not to leave out the Suburban guys. On December 16th, we were called out to an exposed water main. What had happened was when the water mains were initially run, they were run through what was at the time a short, swale. But over time it has eroded, and with the tough storms we've had the last 8-10 months, it actually eroded the swale down far enough where we ended up with an 8-inch water main exposed. Being December, our guys were concerned that over the winter months it would freeze and subsequently affect water access to our customers in that area. So we engaged again with Joe Bradley, and we had them actually relocate the whole pipe out of the swale into a more public roadway and around customer homes, because this actually through the swale went through 3 front yards, which are about 8 or 10 feet from front doors. So we abandoned that line. We rerouted the pipe out and around through the main streets to make sure that we can get connected. And this was finished last week on Tuesday or Wednesday. Minimal outage time to the customers, aside from just re-accessing the new mains, no issues whatsoever. But Gerald Bradley was able to do all of the pipe materials replacement for $75,137.50. And again, much like the first one, final restoration and hot patching these spots will be done in the spring when weather is better for it. So I'm requesting approval retroactively for $75,137.50 for the emergency declaration on Heidelberg Heights Road.
So moved, Linda.
I'll second it. This is Norma.
And thank you. We have a motion and a second for retroactive emergency declaration approval for repairs in Heidelberg Heights Road for $75,137.50. All in favor? Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Let's see, moving on to wastewater, we have monthly project updates, white documents in our board package, digital board packet, pages 33 to 38.
All right, this is the monthly project update report. I have just a couple comments on it. Everything that you're seeing in the upcoming agenda items section, we've actually done today. So good job. The only major exception is the monthly financial review, where we're closing the year for 2022. So we'll put December 2022 and January 2023 together in February. So that's a little change there. Couple things I wanted to highlight. I mentioned earlier under the strategic plan review, under project updates, the Central Lehigh and North Whitehall system water supply study, as shown here as an update that will get a report to the board in February or March of this year. So that's moving along, and Phil will be with us for that. Also in the open project list, a couple of things I wanted to highlight. On page 5, the third item down, the water filtration plant high lift pump VFD replacements. That's the project that is the subject of the Penvest loan, the reaffirmation loan that we did earlier today. So that project actually might move off of this list in a month or two as everything's kind of wrapping up. And then at the bottom of the page, the industrial pretreatment plant master plan project, that's another one that is wrapping up, and we'll have a report to the board in the first quarter sometime. And then I think that I don't believe we reported this to the board previously, but also on that page, like 4 items up, resolution 6-2022-1, the Trexler Town Act 537 special study. We did receive DEP approval on that in January. So that's a nice update that didn't make its way into this report yet. Wanted you to be aware of that. So that one can probably come off the report at this time. If there's any questions on the report or any of the items.
Okay, hearing none. moving on. Agenda item number 8, monthly system operations overview. Digital board package pages 39 to 45. Hang on. Yep, go ahead. That's it.
Andrew,
All right, good afternoon. In front of you, you have the operations report from December 2022, which is the closeout of the year. As far as water production and wastewater goes, there's really no highlights. If you look at the 2022 totals and the 2021 totals, they're really in line with each other, and then there's no real big surprises there. As we move further down, we did receive a notice of violation, and that was in regards to the Sand Spring wastewater treatment plant, which we sort of touched on earlier. That NOV was a little bit different, where they did request, meaning DP, a meeting at their offices. So we did have a meeting on January 12th, and there is going to be a compliance plan that is going to be a requirement. And as we move towards that path, we'll discuss that with the board at a later date. There was 2 bypasses in December as well, both of those being at Heidelberg. There was one on 12/16, which lasted 3 days. And then also on the 23rd, which also lasted 3 days. There were, let's see, 1 injury, and that was a hernia incident with a lifting incident. And then there's the 2 emergency declarations, which were covered by Chris. There was also a boil water advisory that was issued in Allentown. This was just a small section of the town. And that was issued on 12/21 due to a line break and was lifted 2 days later after favorable coliform results. Anyone have any specific questions?
So is it possible maybe spend in one of the meetings 10-15 minutes about the Sand Spring, the background, what has happened, and who has the accountability to put a program together? What is the steps that we have to take that we are in compliance? Because at least one for myself, I don't know the steps that, how long it's going to take, and we're going to resolve that issue. And maybe also later on, maybe a make good on, lesson learned, what has happened, why, we are dumping so much money in this one, we're still not there.
yeah, that's a great question, Amir, and when we have the compliance plan developed that Andrew mentioned, we will bring all of that to you and present the whole plan to you. We also expect to have additional discussion with DEP about kind of what the compliance approach looks like and need to get their approval. So I think we all need to be on the same page about what the plan is moving forward and the lessons learned. I know we're talking about that. It seems like almost daily as we're trying to work through everything here. So
This project has been transferred from engineering or asset organization to manufacturing to up. Is that correct?
yes.
Andrew, who'd you guys meet with, and are they talking about a fine?
Yes. So there's, there's a consent order on the table
Right.
potentially. We're still have some meeting to do with them, and the meeting was with Pat Mazinski, Scott Comfort, and Elsie, I forget her last name, to be totally honest with that.
So anything related to the compliance agreement that we might have with DEP will be subject to legal review that we'll need to kind of talk about separately.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Andrew? All right, let's move on then. The next item on the agenda is any staff comments, and Lisa, you had said you had one.
Yeah, I have one brief one I wanted to share with the board about appointments to our board, and found out actually just a little bit before the meeting that we have one potential board member who is going before the county governance committee for their review on Wednesday this week. And then if that candidate passes that test then be appointed potentially by vote of the commissioners in February. We have another seat, we have 2 seats open, so the county is still kind of working on candidates for the second position, and there's a couple ideas that have been floated around, but just wanted to share that with you. If you're not doing anything on Wednesday evening and want to learn about the candidate, he'll be on the governance committee agenda, which you could join by Zoom if you wanted to, but that's lehighcounty.org. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Solicitor comments, Mike?
No comments, thank you.
Okay, public comments on any topics whatsoever?
No, thanks, Brian.
Yeah, no, thanks, Brian.
All right, moving on to any board comments. I have actually 2. One is in February, we appoint officers, we vote on officers for the coming year. So Norma, would you be willing to take charge of gathering any information in February and then coming back to the board with recommendations?
I'll be happy to. I'll be happy to, Brian.
Please note, we lost with Scott, we lost our vice chair and also our secretary with Dick. So those are definitely open, and actually all of them are open for anybody who wants to have them. The second one is for Liesl. Annually, we ask you to give a presentation to the full board on 2022 performance. So I'd like you to put that on the schedule for some time in February as well. Okay, that's all I have. Any other board members with comments? All right, at this time, we have identified that we're going to go into executive session, so we're going to go into recess. This meeting is now concluded. We will go into executive session at about 2:10, or make that 1:10. And then we'll the Zoom information was provided in a separate email for the board members to attend that meeting. All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Do we need to Zoom for that meeting?